Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Public Allies. I'm your host, Ayesha Sardar, and today we are going to be doing a webinar on improving yourself, how to focus, how to have more focus and energy. Focus is so important because it is the gateway to all thinking, perception, memory, learning, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. Without good focus, all aspects of our ability to think will suffer. Concentration difficulties or lack of focus can be caused by medical, cognitive, psychological problems, or may be related to sleep disorders, medications, alcohol, or drugs. Now, when we are talking about psychological conditions which lead to lack of focus, it could include anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, emotional trauma, and stress. Mental fatigue is a condition, and we are also going to be talking about energy today, but I am going to be mostly focusing on mental fatigue and not physical fatigue. So mental fatigue is a condition triggered by prolonged cognitive activity. Basically, it sends your brain into overdrive, leaving you exhausted, hampering your productivity and overall cognitive function. The most common symptoms could include mental block, lack of motivation, irritability, stress eating, and loss of appetite and insomnia. So mental exhaustion can affect you both in short term and long term. So if it is left unchecked, it can lead to serious health problems, both physical and mental. To address this topic today, we have with us our guest, our speaker, Michael Ballard. Welcome, Michael.
Hello. It's a topic near and dear and important to me.
I know. That's what I'm going to be talking about next. So let me introduce Michael a little. He doesn't introduce himself well, so we have taken the opportunity to do that.
Michael, but to quote a favorite cartoon character, I'm shy, not.
Okay. In Michael's first career, he worked for 10 years with an international packaged goods firm, where he moved up through 5 different positions in Canada and then played a major role in the acquisition of the largest dollar volume account. And then he became an entrepreneur who decided to start a business while he was in the midst of fighting a very serious illness. Michael learned quite a bit about thriving through resilience while facing adversity, anxiety, and severe stress during his 7-year battle with 3 challenges to his life. That is, fighting cancer, multiple treatments, setbacks, and then victories. Michael is a neuro-linguistic practitioner and specializes in resiliency. His practice includes his work as a consultant, facilitator, workshop leader, and writer with over 21 years of experience working with clients from Bermuda to Singapore, Halifax to Vancouver. You're all right, Michael?
Yep. Soda water during pollen season and a scratchy throat.
Not a good combo. Okay. His programs and those of his associates assist individuals, families, teams, and organizations build resiliency skills for greater levels of durability and success. Michael Billard has presented to audiences and consulted with groups in North America as an internationally renowned speaker. Thousands of people have deepened their personal and professional ability to thrive using the process and skills he teaches. In the process, they have learned how to deal with life's big stuff issues based on the expertise Michael enjoys sharing on resiliency. And we hope you learn from him today as well. Michael has appeared in over 250 media interviews across North America on resiliency. He has been an executive producer of over 30 programs and hosted over 30 video interviews on those impacted by life's big stuff events. In his online school, he has students from over 162 countries. Welcome again, Michael.
Thank you. Sorry for the coughing.
No,
this being human can be annoying sometimes.
No, it's not at all annoying. And we hope you're all right.
Oh, I'm fine. It's just annoying. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
But it's spring in Canada, so the leaves are out, the trees are out, and it's gorgeous out. my sinuses and my eyeballs and my throat are all itchy. Oh.
So we need more energy, more physical and mental energy.
Yes, and less fizzy water, but that's my own fault because I love my fizzy water.
Okay, it's a no-no. Okay, I've given you the sharing rights, and let's start.
Okay. Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry, but I find it amusing.
Yeah, it is. It is just being human, Michael, but some water could help. You want to go grab some water?
I think I'm going to do that.
Yes.
And I will put this up to start sharing. And I'll be right back. Thank you. I'm taking the blue glass. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. So for our viewers, energy, focus, minding our mind. There's a famous book from the 70s called Minding Our Body by Mending Our Mind. And the research that's based on ancient wisdom talks a lot about energy, focus, and we know that when we overfocus, hyperfocus, our phones, our laptops, our TVs, our iPads, etc., we actually deplete our mind and body of chemistry. And so as much as it's fun to play online games, when we do it to access, and whether it's card games or Scrabble or higher intensity games, we're depleting our brain of chemistry and it makes it hard to concentrate, can interrupt sleep patterns. So this program was developed so that we could have a whole family approach, because it's not good enough to just work with 13-year-olds to 60-year-olds. Grandma and grandpa, I have a 90-year-old neighbor who loves to use his phone. I have 4-year-olds with iPads in my neighborhood. So this program is to get people to look at energy at a basic level. But again, if you use it, if you have the self-awareness of where you're at, if you practice the skills to shift, it can really help you with your focus and your concentration. So imagine yourself program. And one thing to consider, it's normal to have, think, feel, or use more than one type of energy at a time. So I can feel physically relaxed, and yet my brain might be going, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And so don't get mad at yourself. Just practice awareness without judgment. That's one of the biggest skills, gifts that my Shaolin Kung Fu master taught me as a teenager. Michael, perfection is an illness. Just accept it and say, how did I get here? How will I change this? How will I shift? So this is about shifting your energy, being aware of your energy, and some skills at the end to help you figure out where you're at. So here's the 4 types of energy we're going to discuss. The first one is quiet energy. Every human being on the planet needs quiet time for sleeping, for listening and observing. And the example is like whispering near a baby that's sleeping. You don't want that baby to wake up, so you want to be really quiet and low key. Or maybe when you're reading a book, reading a magazine, you want quiet so you can concentrate. So quiet energy, it's a beautiful, powerful force. Slow energy. We got a picture of a tortoise, somebody walking in a garden with a walker. So the old steamrollers, we used to call them. Quiet, serene, slow. I go for power walks where I go as fast as I can, but then I also have been known to take my camera, and that means I stop, focus, get calm, capture the picture of whatever I'm picturing. Usually it's nature, leaves, flowers, trees, gardens. So slow energy. We all need to plan to have each type of energy in our life. And North Americans, to go backwards for a second, we're not very good at quiet. We're not very good at slow. North Americans seem to be proud of themselves about being loud energy. Now, a little bit of loud, yes, please. When my kids were young, I was the dad that would take them to the playground, and we had a lot of fun with a lot of laughter. So being excited, playing an online video game, going to an event and having fun. It's all important. I remember playing hide and seek with a bunch of teenagers on my property. I own 50 acres. My kids were old enough. We showed everybody where the parameters were. I explained to everybody that I don't like to lose, but we should be having fun here. This isn't supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be fun. And I said, I don't care about being last or first, but I'd like to be in the top 3 out of the 50 of us. So I think I came in 4th and we had a lot of laughter. And one of the kids said, you cheated. I said, I lied in the dirty water. How's that cheating? It's my house. I got shorts and t-shirt in the house. I told you I wanted to win. Shows you the lengths to which I will go to win. So I've been naturally told I'm loud my whole life, and it's true. But I've learned that quiet and slow are also vital for a well-balanced life. Can't do it every minute of the day to go back and forth between them all, but they're important to acknowledge when we're in them. And of course, North Americans, fast, fast, fast. We think fast, we walk fast, we talk fast. All vital at some points in our day, if that's our natural self, or to push out of our comfort zones to be there, but only as part of the 4 types of energy of loud, quiet, slow, and fast. So awareness of what is your energy state, mentally, emotionally, physically. Because those 4 energy states, we have to know that they're all accessible with skill. And we'll get to the skills in a little bit. But those are the baselines, the 4 energies. There's the basic model we have. We wanted a model that 3-year-olds, 97-year-olds, and people who didn't speak English could understand. The blues for quiet, the reds for loud, yellows for fast, greens for slow. I had a young man who was not very verbal, and we printed this off in his bedroom and on the kitchen fridge. And when he woke up in the morning, he would point at his head and he pointed the 2 things that were the most going on inside. And he pointed his heart and he pointed to the 2 feelings, there 2 energies that were going on the most in his feelings. And his mother said, Michael, you've blown up our communication system. It's awesome because he doesn't have to even talk. He can just, I'm thinking, in his case, loud and fast because he'd witnessed something terrible, but he was still waking up. So he was feeling quiet and slow. And so we had some really big breakthroughs in that case. So with these 4 energies in mind, there's 3 states of being that really help us be happy, healthy, and successful in life. And the first one is what I call the Floppy Zone. And that's based on the research on the relaxation response from the 1960s from Harvard University. And this, when you practice the relaxation response, it helps with sleep, it helps with calmness, it helps with concentration. It really is a powerful skill set that if I got to be king for a week for the world, everybody would start to learn it at 3 years of age, and we just get increasing different versions right up until our last days. So it's a way to rest, to recharge and relax our thinking, feeling, and bodies to enhance our skills and abilities. And people seem to think that if we're resting, we're lazy. It's not true. We all deserve somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep if we're average. And for those of us with chronic illnesses, sometimes a couple of naps in the week on top of that. Depends on what else is going on in our life. Because resting is not lazy. I remember hearing about being asked to consult, and the gentleman got fired from his job. And I was like, why? He didn't put in the hours. And yet productivity-wise, out of the 100 people he worked with, he was the most productive. I said, fired? Just because he didn't put in the time? Shouldn't they have followed him around to figure out how they could make everybody else as productive? Highest customer ratings for 6 years in a row, highest profits for 6 years in a row. But no, he didn't put in time. So resting has got nothing to do with lazy if it's done appropriately. Now, flow zone.
Michael, I want to stop you here. Do you want to go for a slideshow, like a full screen?
What's that now?
Full screen slideshow, like.
I thought we were.
Yes, we are on slideshow. Like, okay. Can you give me the remote control so I can do it for you? You have not done a slideshow. Can you press slideshow down. At the end where you can minimize or maximize, zoom in or zoom out. Down.
Because I have you up on the screen as a little tiny slide.
Yeah.
So do you not have this as the full screen? Because I hit on share and then I hit on slide.
No, I don't.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, Michael. Go ahead.
So the floppy zone we talked about.
Yeah.
And then flow. And flow is we feel safe. We're in a state of being able to learn. And also when we're in flow, we're easy to engage with. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but wearing my mask at the mall, it slows down how we can engage because I can't see people smile or frown. So if I say hello, I don't know if they're happy to see me or sad to see me. I don't know whether they, regardless of whether we don't know each other or not. So I've been going around to people with design masking, nice mask. Oh, fashionable mask. And it's amazing the responses I get because I attempt to be in flow as often as possible without being annoying, saying hi to every person I see. But when I'm outside, I only run into 5 people in a 2,000 step walk. I'm not doing it to 50 people. I'm doing it to 5. So flow, we have some skills. We're learning things. We're safe. We feel safe to talk to and connect with others and engage them. And we have a sense of balance and control in our energy. I once bought some exotic coffee that I found out later had 3 times the caffeine of what I'm used to. I had no flow that day. I was jittery. You could literally see my heart beating through my t-shirt because it was moving my chest. And I couldn't burn that stuff off fast enough. I'll never buy that brand again. The flavors were amazing, but I had no flow. I was over caffeinated. And so we can not be in flow because of our diet, caffeine, lack of nutrients, emotional distress. There's a whole lot of reasons we break out of flow, but flow is something we wish to achieve and strive for. I had an auntie who's since passed, but she could knit up a storm. You want a winter hat? Buy me a spool of wool, a skein of wool, and watch me go. Clickety, clickety, clickety. It's like, wow, you sort of saw the hat happen right in front of her. Meanwhile, she's watching TV, she's holding the conversation. It's like, wow, auntie and knitting, she was in flow. She was a lean, keen knitting machine, as I teased her as a teenager. And I had that hat till I was 60 years old and then I lost it. Drats, I had it for 47 years because it was the best. So flow is a vital zone for us to visit. Nobody lives in these zones. We all flex in and out of all of them. Then there's the fright, flight, fun zone. And in this one, it's also called the entertainment and safety zone. So if we've ever watched a scary movie, when the news comes on and they have that big driving music, bum, 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 that's the put the eyeballs on the screen. That's the pay attention. Or if we've gone to live theater and you hear the door open and the footsteps. And if you've been to a pantomime, you're supposed to yell out to the main character, be careful. And the bad person comes up behind the main character and gives them a whack on the head. That's our fight and flight response. Rapid acceleration, pupil dilation. We're ready to fight or run or freeze. But in our model, we call it fright, flight, or fun zone. And that's all about what is happening. Are we enjoying it? But again, if we stay there too long, like a computer game, it depletes our brain of brain chemistry and our body of body chemistry. And it makes concentration the next day, the next week even, difficult. So we have to be careful we don't live there too often. Great place to visit though. I love a good murder mystery on television. Or in the old days before the pandemic, to go to a theater, a movie. Oh, popcorn, holy jumping. Anyways, so fright, flight, and fun zone. But then there's 3 other states that we can all visit, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is not about weakness. This is not about lack of courage. The human body does this. If we have too much fright, fight, and flight response, we have to be careful we don't go into frozen because we feel helpless and hopeless. Now, I can't speak for anybody else, but in high school on exam days, I think I stayed home on chemistry exam day. because it was like, oh my gosh, he speaks the foreign language. And it's the only class I ever went to where the topic was so not me that the board used to turn into waves. I went to the ophthalmologist twice in one semester because I was so stressed. The chemistry teacher's notes on the board all went like a wave across I was frozen. Didn't go to the exam. My mother and father were not impressed. I might have even managed a 51 if I'd have gone, but I didn't, so I got a 39 for the year. My fault. But frozen means you just can't feel capable to do anything. So it's not a character flaw. A couple times a year, well, you got to be careful. You get fired from a job, you could fail an exam, but it's normal a couple times a year. We have to be careful when it's a pattern and it's repeated. That's when we need to talk to somebody we trust, somebody we feel safe with. So it's normal on a few minutes on occasion. I remember back in the days before GPS, I used to own maps because I did a lot of projects all over the province. Pulling at the stop sign going left or right, left or right, left or, I don't remember. Signal up, turn, pull over, get out the map. I froze for 30 seconds. Instead of listening to my voice that went, not left or right, it's straight through. Got at the map, sure enough, it was straight through, but I had doubted myself. I froze, didn't listen to my little voice. Not a big deal on little things, but on big things, it's important to talk to somebody you love and trust that you feel safe with to help get the help you need to get unfrozen. And to manage your energy, we all go to flicker. We don't focus enough. What happened the day before? The day before that? Did you stay up late, watch your favorite movie? Did you get a new app on the phone and maybe you played a new game for a couple hours more than you really should have? Currently, I'm on a Scrabble jag. I just love Scrabble. I'm not the best speller, but I love the intensity of go. What can I figure out? And it's a great way to focus and concentrate in a world full of so many distractions. So when I'm in flicker state, I can't play Scrabble to save my life. I think I get 4-point words, but when I'm really good at focusing, I get 11-point words very often. So flicker, we get pulled off track. I joke it's like Michael with one too many cups of coffee. So in the flicker state, one too many cups of coffee, not fun, but it's okay to visit a couple times a day. But if it's happening all day, often, what's going on? Overwork, bad diet, unresolved emotional issues that are big. Maybe in my 50 physical thing, maybe it's a chronic health issue, maybe it's an acute health issue. And I'm sorry, it tells me my internet connection is unstable. Sorry about that. I'm doing my best. I'll pedal a little faster to get the signal out. So flicker, it's a normal state to visit. Just be careful if you feel like you're living there. And then frenzy. Oh my gosh, that's like Michael, the day I had that exotic coffee, couldn't concentrate, heart rate coming out of my chest. It's almost like you've had a couple from the 1960s, I heard, a couple of diet pills. So you're spiraling up. Can't concentrate, you can't do anything. You got 47 things on the go, you feel totally overwhelmed. And to quote a friend, you need a chill pill. And again, we'll get to the exercises to help shift you through these. But in managing our energy, it's important to have enough self-awareness to realize are you frozen? Are you in flicker? Are you in frenzy? Because it's important to have somebody to help you be grounded. I remember one of my coworkers one day, I said, how are you today? Michael, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. I said, hold my hand. They're what? What? Hold my hand. So I put my hand out. They put their hand in mine. I call it the political handshake. I didn't put pressure. I just put my other hand on top and said, now, breathe. In through the nose, excuse me, out through the mouth. So we did that 3 times. And I swear they went from frenzy down to flicker. I said, so make me a list of the 3 most important things that you should talk to about with me, somebody you trust, or somebody you trust. Doesn't have to be me. Anyways, it turns out they were having a large personal issue and they went down the path of, uh-oh, it's getting worse. Oh, it's getting horrific. Uh-oh, it's mind-blowing, going to change my life forever in a bad way. They awfulized it to the point where it was 1,000 times bigger than it was. It was a big issue, but it wasn't life and death. So here comes the ad. We have audios to help people practice these skills. But what we ask people to do is to deal with their energy is practice in advance for big things. I practiced driving to work when I had corporate job where I was on the highway 5 hours a day. I remember once work said, you use more windshield wiper fluid than any other single person in a country with 112 cars on the road. I said, I drive 80,000 kilometers a year and it's almost all on the 400 and 401 series highways. Does anybody else drive as many miles as me on highways? Oh, good point. I said, one accident in 10 years for, 800,000 kilometers is not shabby. Anyways, but I would plan driving. I was planning being calm, regardless of what other drivers did. I planned on being safe. I planned on being on time and on purpose, meaning I left early because I'd rather get to your office 30 minutes early than 10 minutes late because my clients book their time by usually 25 to 30 minutes at a time. If I'm coming to talk about a $100,000 deal, I can't afford to be late. Explain to my boss or his boss's boss or her boss's boss why we didn't have the $100,000 order after it was verbally agreed on. Oh, I was late, so they gave it to somebody else. It doesn't work. So circle of performance is about what we have as for adults, a 13-part step, or for kids, a 3-part step plan, where you plan in advance. How do you want to feel? How do you want to go there? I used to carry a sleeping bag in the back seat, a day's worth of water, 6 granola bars. Sounds a little silly and excessive, but I once had a friend caught in a major traffic accident. He was there for 8 hours. 8 hours is a long time to be caught in your car in traffic. And he said, and I quote, I will never go on the highway again with 1/3 of a tank of gas. Oh. It got real cold after a few hours. He ran out of gas. Then he had to get towed. It got expensive. So circles of performance is about having a plan about how do you want to feel? What do you need to do to be prepared? And somebody said, but you're just going to work. I said, well, I'm going down the highway at 100 kilometers an hour with multi-ton vehicles all around me. I want to be calm. I want to be my best me. I managed to avoid a couple of accidents because I was following the right distance, not being perfect, just planning in advance because it's less stressful. And when I'm less stressful, I'm not going to hopefully be frozen, flickered, or frenzied. I'm going to be in flow. And in flow, I'm safer, I'm more productive, I'm less stressed. So that's what the circle of performance is about. So to use an example, when my father taught me to ride a bicycle, he didn't know he was using a circle of performance like they teach Olympic athletes, but basically that what he did. So he held on to the back seat and he taught me steering in the beginning. Just practice your steering. I'll push, you steer. I'll be your brakes. So we practice steering. Okay, steering's pretty good. Now, your father's still a pretty athletic guy, but you're 6. It's time for you to start pedaling too. I'll be your brakes and your balance, but it's up to you to steer and pedal. Yeah. So he introduced pedaling. Oh boy, I got really good at pedaling, except when that very nice lady waved at me and I steered right into the ditch because I followed her wave. Even at 6, I found young ladies attractive. I don't know. Anyways, steering, pedaling. I got pretty good at those two. And then my dad said, okay, now you're going to practice your braking. Oh my, that was a hard thing to do because what I don't have in there is balancing. I have steering, pedaling, braking. I seem to have a hard time pedaling, braking, steering, and balancing. I still have the bone chips from falling off because I had the legs to go like the wind. I could steer like nobody's business after a while, but the braking, not so good. So circle of performance is strictly planning in advance, breaking it down into the pieces of what the issue is so that we can be in flow. Because to me, to this day, one of the greatest pleasures I have every spring is getting the bicycle out, putting on the helmet, putting on the high visibility strap on the ankle or the wrist on the traffic side, front light, back light, and going off and riding. And there's something about riding a bike after 10 at night when the traffic is low and neighborhoods are quiet and going through the streets. Oh my goodness, it's just joyful. So circles of performance about planning in advance. And also, forget the big picture. How about the biggest picture? When you go to bed at night, I plan on having a great sleep. So what do you need to do before bedtime, for a good sleep? What's your routine? Somebody said, well, you go to bed, you sleep. No. How often did you clean your bedding, your linen? How often do you switch out your pillow? How often do you air out your room? How do you make your room smell fresh and clean? Somebody said, boy, you're fussy. I said, I even bought at one point when I was having a hard time sleeping, some special lime cologne for men, and 2 dots, one at the top of the bed, the bottom of the bed. And it smelled sort of like I was in a lime grove. It was unbelievable. And I associate that fragrance to this day with sleeping like a rock. So a circle of performance, we can use those skills of planning, not obsessing, just planning for a great time, a better outcome, a better experience. So creating and living in an environment to manage our energy and our focus starts with awareness. What types of energies are yours? We talked about loud, fast, quiet, slow. All of us have 1 to 3 we're really good at. I was born with the gift of loud and fast. My whole life when I was a kid was, shh, not so loud. Shh, not so loud. Well, I'm 67 and I'm still having to work on, shh, not so loud. I managed to get my fast moderated often, never always. And then there's quiet and slow. And I'm proud to say that for 8 to 10 hours a day, I can be really quiet and slow. It's great for my body. And I appreciate the ability to do that now. And I can tell you that with a chronic illness in my teen years that was very painful, I managed to practice quiet and slow to the point where I went 3 years with no symptoms. I didn't say the illness went away. I had 3 years with no symptoms. And I used the research from the Harvard Medical School, and that book, Minding the Body, Mending the Mind, was a real introduction to energy management at a personal level. So awareness, values of excellence, not perfection. Practice, rest, practice, rest, practice, rest, and play is my model of learning something. I'm a big believer in the value of play because then it makes it fun. If it's not fun, I don't care how important it is, unless it's an emergency. Why can't we make it fun? I remember being told in corporate once, why does everything have to be a joke with you? I said, I was sick for 4 months last year and I still came in 7th out of 100 people. So you see, I made it fun and I still beat all those guys that had the same 12 months, but I was not even around for 4 months and I still got it accomplished because I made it fun. My customers like to see me because I always was respectful, but a little bit silly because then we laughed. And when you laugh, it's like lubrication for life and life gets easier and then get to deal with the big and the small issues. So live life with a sense of mastery. I'm never going to be perfect. Nobody is, but perfection can really gridlock you because you don't want to move forward. Whereas mastery is like, what if we did this? And let's try that. And I remember a young lady became a store manager who said, wow, just like you told me, it happened in less than 3 years. I said, well, you've been practicing mastery. I said, you did exactly what I recommended. You always said, what's one more thing? And I said, I come back 2 weeks later, you'd done one more thing. And then you'd gone to your manager and said, what's one more thing? And when the regional manager came in once a month, you said, what's one more thing? I said, you're what some would derogatorily call a keener. But you, to me, make the world go around because you're always doing just that one more thing to make it better. And you didn't worry about it if it was wrong. You just learned from it and you kept moving forward. Oh, we should clone her. 100,000 people like her and our productivity in the country would be through the roof. And then positive asset, a strength-based approach. So yes, we all have challenges and weaknesses, but focus on what are we really good at, acknowledge what we're not so good at, and let's move forward. And then I call this being a realistic optimist. I know I got some things I don't do well. Spelling and grammar in the 70s. failed grade 9, partly because I can't spell and do grammar well. No spell check back then. I used to own a British dictionary and an American dictionary and a Canadian dictionary. And sometimes my spelling was so bad I couldn't find the word in the dictionary to figure out how to spell it. But I'm a realistic optimist. My parents just kept saying, do your best, do your best. So I finally got out of high school, and college was easy because they didn't care if I could spell. Did I know the subject? So to manage your energy, some of the skills, there's a lot of talk about mindfulness, but to me, mindfulness or meditation is not just sitting there in the lotus position going, that's one way. There's several ways to do that. But it's also, I like to power walk, but I attempt to be really mindful. I've got some power walking shoes I spent money on because the narrow heels that I have means in regular runners, my feet slop around. It's distracting and it's sometimes out and out painful. So I found a brand of shoes that fit my funny shaped feet. And so I power walk and I can feel my heel going down. I can feel the arch working my toes, and I lift off, and it's like, isn't it amazing? The human body just works so amazing. And because I'm high mileage, scratch and dent, I have a toe joint that no longer functions at 100%. And I used to tease my mother before she passed saying, Mom, how come there's no warranty? She said, dear, it was only for 12 months. After that, you're on your own. I said, did you carry any spare parts? She said, you got brothers. So sense of humor. So mindfulness, you can do it through calmly sitting, but I do it quietly walking or speed walking because we can do it in many ways. Calming my breathing. I don't have it with me, but I bought myself an oxygen meter sensor for the fingertip. And the goal is, how fast can I, when I exercise, can I go from 90 to 110 beats a minute and get it down to 58? Because that's about capacity. It's a small thing. I'm competitive with myself, not against you. I can't be you. That's impossible. Smarter, faster, but I can be a better me. So mindset. So mindfulness is one. Basic, but very powerful is belly breathing. It's an effective way to manage your energy. Experts would call it diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from the diaphragm. But again, I wanted to build a course that would work for 3-year-olds, 97-year-olds, and I actually did this with a 97-year-old who was going blind. She was going deaf. She was legally blind and legally deaf, which I didn't know that was possible, but it is. And so we managed to get the words across to her and teach her. And after a couple of weeks, I went back to see her. How's it going? And at the risk of offending everybody, she said, this shit works. She was waking up in the night and panicking because with the lights off and her vision down to 3%, she couldn't see anything. And I don't blame her. Scary stuff to go blind. So we helped her with her anxiety when she was in bed because they got her an alarm system she could punch and an attention system. She'd moved to a nursing home so she could get help to get up and go into the bathroom. But this stuff works. I said, yes, it does. You deserve more, but this is what I can do for you. So that'll help with the anxiety for sleeping because she was up all, too many times a night, go, where am I? Because I can't see anything. So I suggested they get her a switch that she could operate by hand to turn on her bedside light. At least she could see a rough frame of her bed. So belly breathing. The floppy response, that's the relaxation response, muscle tightening and relaxation, doing different muscle groups. Very powerful time to do it when you first get up. Not within 30 minutes of any meal though, and not with any time before bedtime, at least 30 minutes away from sleep time as well. That's another one. Quick tension scan or QT scan. I once did this with a group of 6 and 8-year-olds, and a little boy said, my grandmother said I'm kind of a cutie. You should call this the cutie scan, because I was calling it the QT, quick tension scan. So in his honor of a 6-year-old who was paying attention, it's the cutie scan. Because as I teased him, then I said, are you saying we're all kind of cute? And he just grinned and laughed. So some of the language, and I know our time's almost up, of resiliency is I am, and self-leadership skills. And I will give you a PDF so you can share this with the viewers that watch. So I am, I have, I can, and I do. These are all the words and the phrases of people being resilient. And I find it fascinating that resiliency research and the neuro-linguistic programming research is 100% congruent on this point with language, because this is belief systems. And so just to go back over those is I am. So it's a self-leadership skill. I am a person people can like and love, and I go out of my way to be lovable and likable and respectful. And sometimes people do things for me. It's like, I'm worthy of this. I was just friendly. I remember an older lady taking a liking to me and feeding me the best food on more than a couple of occasions. She said, "You're the only one that waved hello. Of course I'm going to feed you. Everybody else, I'm invisible. I'm old." And I said, "Well, that's just mileage. This is still really interesting." Anyway, so I have people help me set limits so I know when to stop before there's danger of trouble. So for kids, that's really important. And as we get older and our physical being changes, we sometimes need to be told. I remember somebody saying, "I don't like it, but I'm using a walker because it looked like they'd been hit by a brick because they fell down." He said, "But at least with a walker, I can get out and about." So I can. And that's about having somebody to engage with that we can share conversations with in a non-judgmental, safe manner. Because sometimes it's a therapist, sometimes it's somebody we can trust, like a guidance counselor, all sorts of places for that. And the I do is actually taking action, setting goals and taking action. I meet a lot of people who can, I am, I have, I can, but they don't do. It's no good to have the number of the therapist in your phone unless you call them and make the appointment and go. So really important. And then I'm a big fan of quotes. "An ounce of action is worth a ton of theory" by Frederick Engels is one. "Life is a great big canvas. You should throw all the paint on it you can" by Danny. And then William James, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." So our last one is the 4 energies: loud, fast, quiet, slow. If we are going to have a greater focus, we have to ask ourselves, where do we invest our energy into which one of the energies? And so I have learned to be quiet and slow for 10 hours a day. And if you'd have seen me at 6 versus now, you would have thought it was impossible. But I've learned it's very possible if you practice the skills I mentioned. So there's my introduction to managing your energy for greater focus. So thank you, Ayesha.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. That was so interesting. And you know, the last point that you said, people learn skills, people watch them, people go to therapists, but then they forget to put them and execute them in their lives. And then they say it didn't work because you don't practice. Practice and perseverance is one thing. You have to be persistent. You have to practice and practice and practice again until you reach your goals. Let's stop sharing.
Yes.
Yes.
There we go.
So
thank you.
So, you know, that is such an important thing, what you said. You have the number.
To do it.
Yes, you have to do it. You have your friends, you have your family, you have your trusted people who you can talk to. But then it is the I have, but are you doing the I do? You are not.
And
so that becomes so important.
I like to make fun of what I don't like to do. So I bought some funky socks. And funky socks are to remind me that I need to exercise a minimum of 4 times a week, preferably 5 or 6. I always get 1 day a week off because people say you're active and aren't you lucky you love to exercise? And it's like, no. I'm not lucky that I love to exercise. These were on sale for $3 a pair. I have in the past year bought 12 pair because they're $3 instead of $12.98 because the poor merchant, it's the pandemic, they're just trying to get rid of them so they don't have them in the warehouse. But I bought funky socks because funky socks are my way of reminding me to invest in me. And one of the things about managing our energy is our social skills. Well, during the pandemic, social, what's that? But I live in a tower with a whole bunch of 3-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 80-year-olds, and I will flash a little ankle and say, I got some funky socks on today. What do you have?
Yeah.
And so a couple of days ago, I don't know, an 8-year-old was in the lobby waiting for mommy to come down with daddy. And she was bored. Dad. And she had some tights on with all sorts of bright colored blue and yellow and orange, all the colors of in stars. So I showed her my funky sock and said, I like your sense of fashion. Wow. And I lifted up mine and said, I have funky socks. And your dad's got plaid shirt on. We all got our own fashion going on. Well, it just shifted her mood. She got attention from 8 feet, 12 feet away. But it's about engaging with ourselves and others in a way that uplifts, because being joyful with others and respectful. And I mean, and for $3, I got $1,000 worth of fun out of these, if you can put a money on it. Yeah. Because funky socks are one of my ways to communicate. And I bought them very deliberately. Yeah. And there's a photographer in Brampton who has, I think he said 50 pair. And so I met a sock soulmate. And I've been to events where I wore my formal business socks because I was there as a presenter or whatever. And he's there as a professional photographer. He's still wearing his funky socks. I said, I'm going to start wearing my funky socks everywhere. He said, it's a lifestyle, baby.
I'll agree with him. You know, it could be the topic that you talk on, like, you know, it could be a marketing strategy for you that you're wearing funky socks and you'll be popular as the speaker who wears the funky socks.
I agree. Well, it's harmless.
It's harmless.
But it's fun.
Yes.
And it bridges almost all ages. I showed my 89-year-old neighbor. He said, why do you wear those socks? So I told him, and he went, all my life, I've only worn business socks since I was like 16. I said, nothing wrong with it. And in your generation, these types of socks probably didn't exist. Or if they did, there was very just little discrete stars. And mostly it was for ladies, not for men. But I said, now they're everywhere. I said, and I refuse to pay $25 for a pair. And they are out there. They're gorgeous. But I said, these are the moderately priced ones. And on sale at $3. I bought reindeer socks for Christmas a couple of years ago. Wow. But I bought them in January because at $14.95 a pair in November, $1.99 a pair for January the 3rd. I bought 2 pair. I'm good for November, December for years.
I know, but that's such a wonderful thing. And you know what you're doing, teaching people the skills which they don't have. It is not too late to learn. And people forget that sometimes we are not born with certain skills. We have to learn them.
And depending on our family, our neighborhood, our culture, our race, our faith, all sorts of reasons why we know some things and other things we don't.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Michael, again for being on our platform on Public Allies. And we enjoyed it thoroughly. I completely enjoyed it. And I always learn something from you. Whenever we meet, I learn a tip, a trick, or something. When you're talking, you don't realize, you just throw them away like that. So
well, it's all important, but the trouble with being serious is that it pushes people away. It pulls some in, but some of us are so tired of authority figures that we're boring and obnoxious.
Yes.
That when I hear of really important people that are filled with self-importance and they tell you it's got to be, I just tune out, because as a 6-year-old, it was like, my father's really important and smart, but he never talks like that. Yeah. So, you know, lucky my parents weren't like that. So yes, I think it's good to throw things out and repeat yourself a little bit and have some models. And I will get you the I am, I have, I can, I do pages, PDF files, so that you can share them, or I'll give them to you in JPEG so you can put them up on Public Allies.
No problem. That'll be wonderful. And also, if somebody who hasn't watched, they're going to see a repeat. And we do have viewers who are watching, and one of them says, I love the belly breathing one. So
I will get you the I will get you the full PDF exercise. You can share that because it's a vital basic skill. I worked with a 5-year-old that was having panic attacks for really big valid reasons. He'd done nothing wrong, but he witnessed things nobody should have to see, never mind a child. We taught him belly breathing along with some other things, and all of his symptoms disappeared in 5 weeks. 1 minute, the school was going to expel him, and 5 weeks later, the teacher and the principal and the guidance counselor and the therapist, like, it's like another child. And we started with belly breathing. We helped him conquer his belly breathing, and we helped him understand his 4 energies.
Yes.
The screen is reversed.
And also something that you were talking about when we hadn't started the live is about going to the roots and finding out why. So if they had found out why the kid was behaving like what he was, they would have gotten the answer.
They didn't seem to care about that. It was just he was acting out in class. Well, he witnessed something that was life-altering and horrendous. He's 5. He feels helpless. Parents and adults are supposed to act like parents and adults, not nasty thugs. Anyways, I work with a boy with Tourette's, and belly breathing was one of 4 skills we taught. 3 20-minute sessions. His Tourette's went from triplets to duplets. And unfortunately, the grandma moved, and I didn't stay in touch because she didn't have the money for telecommunications. But day 2, the director of that children's camp said, he tells me that Mike is his new best friend.
Oh.
And so when you go from triplets to duplets with Tourette's, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you know, the last day of the camp, the grandmother said, you're the first one to give him skills. So resiliency skills, energy skills, they're not about perfection, but they take a lot of the rough edges off of life. Smoother sailing, if you will.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. And thanks for everyone who is watching this. To end this, I would like to say, get to the root. People just don't act out like they do. There is something hidden there. There is a reason behind it. So if you can just try and find out the reason behind it, or if you don't want to find the reason behind it, just be a little more patient and a little more kind to others. That's all from us today. Thanks to our guest speaker, Michael, and we will see you all next week on the Thursday for a roundtable on men's health. Take care and good night.
Thank you. Good night.